A practical guide to handling verbal confrontation with examples. Introduction. Why we need to talk, even when it's hard. Most people avoid confrontation, not because they're weak, but because they don't know how to do it well. They fear being misunderstood. They don't want to hurt someone. Or worse, they're afraid the situation will spiral out of control. So instead of speaking up, they stay silent. They swallow frustration. They tolerate unfairness. They let opportunities for clarity and connection slip away. But avoiding confrontation doesn't make conflict disappear. It just pushes it underground, where it festers, resurfaces, and often does more damage than if it had been addressed directly. This book exists to challenge the idea that confrontation is inherently negative. In truth, verbal confrontation, done skillfully and ethically, is one of the most important communication tools we have. It allows us to stand up for ourselves without tearing others down. It makes room for honesty in our relationships. It creates boundaries, solves problems, and builds trust when done right. The problem is, most people were never taught how to confront someone constructively. We either grew up around explosive arguments or total silence, rarely anything in between. As a result, confrontation becomes a spectrum of extremes, aggression or avoidance. This book offers a third way, principled, skillful verbal confrontation. What this book will give you. In these pages, you'll learn the psychology behind conflict and how to stay grounded during it. The core principles that guide effective verbal confrontation. Practical, real-life examples and scripts to apply in everyday situations. How to handle confrontations at work, in personal relationships, and in emotionally charged moments. Techniques to de-escalate, stay calm, and communicate with clarity and confidence. Each chapter combines concepts with scenarios, so you'll not only understand the ideas, but also see how they play out in real conversations. You'll learn how to navigate power dynamics, cultural differences, and digital communication without compromising your values or your voice. Who this book is for? This book is for anyone tired of being walked over or misunderstood. Leaders who want to confront problems without creating more. Partners, parents, friends, and co-workers who care enough to speak up. People who are usually too blunt or too quiet and want to find the right balance. Anyone who wants to build stronger, healthier relationships through honest conversation. Verbal confrontation doesn't have to be a fight. It can be a turning point. A clarification. A necessary moment of truth. And when you know how to handle it with principle and skill, it becomes a powerful form of respect, not just for others, but for yourself. Let's begin. Chapter 1. What is verbal confrontation? Verbal confrontation is a natural, often unavoidable part of human interaction. Whether you're at work, at home, in a relationship, or navigating social spaces, disagreements and conflicting viewpoints will arise. The way we choose to engage in those moments, what we say, how we say it, and whether we listen, shapes not only the outcome of the conversation, but also the quality of our relationships. In this chapter, we'll define verbal confrontation, explore its many forms, and begin to dismantle the myth that all confrontation is bad. Understanding what verbal confrontation truly is, and what it isn't, is the first step to handling it with clarity, confidence, and respect. 1.1 Definition of verbal confrontation. At its core, verbal confrontation is any spoken exchange where differing perspectives, expectations, or emotions come into conflict. It may involve expressing dissatisfaction, setting a boundary, correcting behavior, or defending a position. Confrontation can be loud and intense, or quiet and firm. It is not always negative. In fact, when done skillfully, it can lead to understanding, resolution, and stronger relationships. Confrontation becomes harmful only when it escalates into verbal aggression, manipulation, or disrespect. The key is learning how to confront without being confrontational. 1.2 Common forms of verbal confrontation. Verbal confrontation is not always a shouting match. It takes many forms, including 1. Assertive challenge. Clear, direct expression of a concern or disagreement. Example, I felt disrespected when you spoke over me in the meeting. 2. Heated argument. Emotions run high, voices may be raised. Often spontaneous and reactive. Example, you never listen to me. This always happens. 3. Passive aggression. Indirect confrontation through sarcasm, guilt-tripping, or avoidance. Example, nice of you to show up on time, for once. 4. Constructive dialogue. Calm, goal-oriented conversation aiming for understanding or resolution. Example, I want to understand where you're coming from, even though I don't agree. Each of these has different effects. Some are healthy and promote growth, others damage trust and deepen division. Recognizing the type of confrontation you're in is critical to choosing the right response. 1.3 Why confrontation feels difficult. For many people, confrontation is associated with danger, raised voices, anger, rejection, or even loss of relationships. These fears often stem from past experiences, personality traits, or cultural conditioning. Common reasons people avoid confrontation. Fear of conflict or escalation. Desire to be liked or keep the peace. Uncertainty about what to say. Past trauma or negative experiences with conflict. However, avoiding confrontation doesn't make the issue go away, it usually makes it worse. Unspoken tension leaks out in subtle, destructive ways, resentment builds, communication breaks down, and trust erodes. Ironically, avoiding confrontation often leads to more serious conflict later on. 1 point for productive vs. destructive confrontation. Let's look at the key differences between productive and destructive confrontation. Productive confrontation. Destructive confrontation focuses on resolving the issue, focuses on blaming or winning. Uses calm, clear communication, uses insults, shouting, or sarcasm. Listens as well as speaks, interrupts, deflects, or dismisses. Respects personal boundaries, invades or ignores boundaries. Strengthens relationships, damages or ends relationships. Confrontation doesn't have to be ugly. When done with emotional awareness and communication skills, it can actually strengthen relationships by clearing misunderstandings and fostering mutual respect. 1.5 The role of culture and context. Different cultures, families, and workplaces have different norms around confrontation. In some cultures, being direct is seen as honest and respectful. In others, it is considered rude or aggressive. In some families, yelling is a normal part of communication, in others, it's seen as threatening. Understanding the cultural and situational context helps you avoid misinterpreting intentions. Choose an appropriate tone and approach. Navigate confrontation more respectfully. Being adaptable is not about being fake, it's about being effective. 1.6 Confrontation as a life skill. Avoiding confrontation might seem easier in the short term, but over time, it costs you peace of mind, self-respect, and healthy relationships. Learning to confront with clarity and compassion is not just a skill, it's a form of self-leadership. In the chapters that follow, you'll learn how to recognize your own triggers and emotional patterns. Use specific words and phrases to stay grounded during conflict. Handle common confrontational personalities. Practice techniques that turn difficult conversations into constructive dialogue. Chapter Summary. Verbal confrontation involves addressing disagreement or tension through spoken communication. It can be direct or indirect, calm or emotional. Not all confrontation is negative. When handled well, it leads to growth. Understanding the difference between productive and destructive confrontation is key. Culture and context matter in shaping how confrontation is experienced and expressed. Reflection questions. 1. How do you usually react to verbal confrontation? Avoid, attack, freeze, or engage? 2. What were the messages you received about conflict growing up? 3. Can you recall a confrontation that went well? What made it work? 4. How might your life change if you became more confident in handling conflict? Chapter 2. The psychology behind verbal conflict. Verbal confrontations rarely happen without cause. They often arise from deeper emotional and psychological dynamics that most people aren't even aware of in the moment. By understanding the underlying processes that drive verbal conflict, you'll be better equipped to remain composed, respond constructively, and even diffuse tension before it escalates. This chapter explores what happens in the mind during a confrontation and how you can use that insight to your advantage. 1. The human brain in conflict: fight, flight, or freeze. When we perceive a threat, whether it's physical, emotional, or social, our brain triggers a survival mechanism known as the fight, flight, or freeze response. This instinctual reaction is controlled by the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for emotional processing and threat detection. In verbal conflict, the threat is rarely physical. More often, it's a threat to our sense of safety, respect, or self-worth. For example, the fight response may present as yelling, defensiveness, or sarcasm. The flight response could look like shutting down, changing the subject, or physically leaving. The freeze response might involve becoming silent, overwhelmed, or mentally disengaged. Understanding these instinctive responses can help you pause and assess a situation rather than react impulsively. 2. Ego, identity, and pride. One of the most powerful psychological forces in verbal conflict is the human ego. When someone disagrees with us or criticizes our behavior, it can feel like a personal attack, especially when we are emotionally invested in the topic. For instance, if a colleague dismisses your idea, you may interpret it as a judgment on your intelligence. If a partner expresses frustration, you may feel accused of being a bad person, even if that's not what they meant. This happens because we often attach our identity and self-worth to our opinions, decisions, or roles. When those things are challenged, our ego rises to defend us, even if doing so makes the situation worse. Being aware of your ego's influence allows you to distinguish between an attack on your ideas and an attack on your character. 3. Emotional triggers and unmet needs. Everyone has emotional triggers, sensitive points shaped by past experiences, trauma, insecurities, or unmet emotional needs. These triggers can cause us to overreact to certain words, tones, or behaviors, even when no harm was intended. Some common unmet needs include the need to be heard, the need to feel respected, the need for emotional safety, the need to maintain control, the need to feel competent. For example, if you grew up in an environment where your voice was often ignored, being interrupted as an adult might provoke a disproportionate emotional reaction. You're not just responding to the interruption, you're responding to an unresolved need. Identifying your triggers helps you gain control over your emotional reactions during confrontation. 4. Projection and assumptions. Projection occurs when we unconsciously assign our own feelings, fears, or insecurities onto others. For example, someone who feels guilty may accuse others of being judgmental. Someone who fears abandonment might interpret neutral behavior as rejection. In addition, we often make assumptions about people's intentions. She said that because she's trying to embarrass me. He's being passive-aggressive on purpose. They must think I'm incompetent. These assumptions, rarely based on facts, distort our perception and often escalate conflict unnecessarily. A more constructive approach is to ask questions and seek clarification rather than jumping to conclusions. Pausing to check whether your assumptions are grounded in reality can prevent many confrontations from spiraling out of control. 5. Emotional contagion and escalation. Emotions are contagious. When someone is angry or agitated, their energy can influence those around them. This is a phenomenon known as emotional mirroring. If someone raises their voice, you may feel compelled to do the same. If someone becomes sarcastic or dismissive, your tone might shift in response. This cycle of escalating emotion can quickly turn a simple disagreement into a full-blown argument. Breaking the escalation cycle requires conscious effort. You can de-escalate a situation by lowering your voice instead of raising it, slowing your speech and breathing, using calm, neutral language, choosing not to mirror the other person's intensity. The ability to remain emotionally steady in the face of provocation is a powerful tool in managing conflict. 6. The need to win. In many confrontations, people unconsciously strive to win, to be right, to make the other person admit fault, or to dominate the conversation. This competitive mindset turns conversations into battles, with each person more focused on scoring points than solving the issue. However, winning a verbal confrontation often comes at a cost: damaged trust, resentment, or broken communication. A more productive mindset focuses on understanding and resolution. Ask yourself, what am I actually trying to achieve? Is being right more important than preserving the relationship? Can both of us walk away feeling respected? Letting go of the need to win allows you to focus on the deeper goals of the conversation: clarity, connection, and mutual understanding. Conclusion: it's awareness as the first step to control. Understanding the psychological mechanisms behind verbal conflict doesn't mean you'll never get angry or feel defensive. But it does mean you can catch yourself in the moment and choose how to respond rather than reacting automatically. By recognizing the roles of fight, flight, or freeze responses, ego and identity, emotional triggers and unmet needs, projection and assumptions, emotional contagion, the desire to win, you equip yourself with the insight necessary to stay grounded in moments of tension. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to identify the root causes of conflict so you can address the real issue, not just the surface behavior. Let's continue. Chapter 3: Identifying the Roots of Conflict. Verbal confrontations are often treated as surface-level disagreements. Someone raises their voice, makes a cutting remark, or refuses to listen. But underneath every confrontation lies a deeper cause. If you only respond to what is being said, without addressing the underlying issues, the conflict is likely to reoccur. In this chapter, we'll explore how to identify what's really driving the confrontation. Whether it's an unmet need, a miscommunication, or a clash of values, recognizing the root cause allows you to respond with clarity and precision rather than confusion and frustration. 1. Surface versus root conflict. Many people mistake the surface issue for the actual problem. The surface is what's immediately visible: the angry tone, the sarcastic comment, the refusal to cooperate. But the root is what fuels those behaviors. Example: surface: a coworker snaps at you for not including them in an email. Root: they feel excluded and unappreciated by the team. By addressing the root, feelings of exclusion, you are far more likely to reach a resolution than if you focus only on the missing email. Key principle: don't react to the surface behavior. Seek to understand the story underneath it. 2. Common root causes of verbal confrontation. Understanding common sources of conflict gives you a mental checklist for diagnosing what may really be going on. A. Miscommunication. Words are often misunderstood, especially under stress. Misheard tones, ambiguous language, or poor timing can create friction. Someone says, "I'll take care of it," but you interpret that as passive-aggressive. An email comes off as cold because it lacks warmth or context. Resolution strategy: clarify meaning, ask open-ended questions, and avoid assuming intent. B. Unmet expectations. When reality doesn't match someone's expectations, spoken or unspoken, frustration builds. You expected a friend to show up on time. They didn't. A manager expected a report to be done by Monday. You thought it was due Wednesday. Many confrontations could be prevented by clearly stating expectations in advance. Resolution strategy: revisit agreements, clarify assumptions, and establish shared expectations moving forward. C. Clashing values or beliefs. Sometimes, the conflict isn't about behavior, it's about deeper values. One person values honesty above all, while the other prioritizes harmony. A team member believes in rigid deadlines, while another emphasizes flexibility. These differences often surface during emotionally charged discussions, especially when people feel their core values are not being respected. Resolution strategy: acknowledge the values in conflict and seek compromise or mutual respect rather than full agreement. D. Power struggles. Verbal conflicts often stem from perceived imbalances in power, authority, or control. A subordinate resents micromanagement. A parent feels disrespected by a defiant teenager. A partner feels dismissed in decisions that affect both people. Power struggles are not always about dominance, often they're about control over one's environment or autonomy. Resolution strategy: shift the focus from control to collaboration. Use language that empowers rather than commands. Unexpressed emotions. When emotions go unspoken for too long, they tend to erupt in the wrong place and time. Frustration, resentment, jealousy, and fear all seek release. You snap at a colleague, but the real issue is burnout. Your partner brings up a small oversight, but they're really upset about feeling unsupported for weeks. Resolution strategy: encourage honest emotional expression before emotions reach a boiling point. Create space for others, and yourself, to speak openly. 3. How to identify the root during conflict. In the middle of a confrontation, it's easy to focus on the words being spoken and miss the emotional undercurrent. Here are strategies to help uncover the real issue. 8. Ask clarifying questions. Can you help me understand what's really bothering you? What's the most important part of this for you? Are you feeling emotion? I want to make sure I understand. B. Observe emotional patterns. Is this person often defensive in similar situations? Do certain words or topics always trigger them? Are their reactions out of proportion to the situation? Patterns often point to underlying needs or past experiences. C. Listen for core needs. Behind most anger is a need, often to be heard, respected, accepted, or valued. Tune into what the person might need that they're not expressing directly. 4. Responding to root issues versus reacting to symptoms. Once you've identified the likely root, you can tailor your response accordingly. Example 1. Symptom: your boss is short with you in a meeting. Reaction: unhelpful, you respond with sarcasm. Root cause: they're stressed about a looming deadline. Better response: I noticed you seemed tense, anything I can help with to lighten the load. Example 2. Symptom: the partner accuses you of being distant. Reaction: defensive, that's not true, I've been around all week. Root cause: they feel emotionally disconnected. Better response: I didn't realize you were feeling that way. Let's talk about how we can reconnect. 5. Practice identifying the root. Take a recent conflict, big or small. Ask yourself: 1. What was said? 2. What were the emotions involved? 3. What might have been the unmet need or deeper concern? 4. How could I have responded to that root issue? This simple reflection process can dramatically change the way you view confrontation. Conclusion: beneath every argument lies a message. People rarely say exactly what they mean during conflict. Words come out tangled in emotion, clouded by assumptions, and filtered through past experiences. But beneath the noise, there's usually a message waiting to be understood. When you learn to listen for that message, the root cause rather than the reaction, you begin to transform conflict from a source of stress into a tool for connection and clarity. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to prepare yourself internally before entering a potentially difficult conversation, including how to manage your emotions and stay grounded under pressure. Chapter 4: Knowing yourself. Before you can effectively handle confrontation with others, you need to know how to manage yourself. Verbal conflict is often as much an internal experience as it is an external one. Your ability to remain composed, assertive, and clear during a difficult conversation depends on your awareness of your own emotions, habits, and boundaries. This chapter focuses on building that self-awareness so you can respond, not react. 1. The role of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, EQ, is your ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions while also recognizing and influencing the emotions of others. In confrontation, EQ is often more important than IQ. Key components of EQ include self-awareness, knowing what you're feeling and why. Self-regulation, managing emotions instead of letting them control you. Empathy, understanding how others may be feeling. Social skills, communicating effectively and handling social interactions smoothly. When you improve your emotional intelligence, you're better equipped to Stay calm during verbal tension. Notice your emotional triggers. Avoid saying things you'll regret. Understand the emotions behind someone else's behavior. Example, instead of shouting back at someone who snaps at you, self-awareness might help you recognize your rising frustration and choose to take a breath before responding. 2. Identifying your personal triggers. We all have specific words, tones, or behaviors that trigger strong emotional reactions. These reactions are usually tied to past experiences, sometimes as far back as childhood, and can make confrontation feel more intense than it actually is. Common triggers include being interrupted, feeling dismissed or ignored, sarcastic tones, being blamed unfairly, public criticism. To identify your triggers, reflect on recent conflicts and ask, what specific behavior set me off? What emotion did I feel most strongly? What memory or past experience might this remind me of? Awareness of your triggers allows you to catch yourself in the moment before you overreact. 3. Managing emotional reactions in real time. Once you know your emotional patterns, you can work on regulating them in the heat of confrontation. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions but rather expressing them in a constructive way. Techniques include breathing. Deep, slow breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system and reduces anxiety. Labeling the emotion, mentally naming your feeling, I'm feeling frustrated right now, can reduce its intensity. Taking a pause, saying give me a moment or taking a short break buys time to respond thoughtfully. Grounding techniques, focusing on something physical, like your feet on the floor or the feel of your hands, can help return your mind to the present. The goal is to stop your emotions from hijacking the conversation. 4. Clarifying your boundaries. Healthy confrontation requires clear personal boundaries, limits that define what is acceptable for you and what is not. Without boundaries, you may tolerate disrespect, over-explain yourself, or escalate the conflict in frustration. Ask yourself, what behavior is unacceptable to me, e.g., yelling, name-calling? What do I need in a difficult conversation to feel safe, e.g., being allowed to finish a sentence? What consequences am I willing to enforce if my boundaries are violated? Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about communicating your limits and standing by them respectfully. Example, I'm open to hearing your point of view, but I won't stay in this conversation if you continue to raise your voice. 5. Understanding your default conflict style. Everyone has a default style of handling confrontation. These styles are often learned and reinforced over time. Understanding yours can help you adjust when needed. The 5 common conflict styles are 1. Avoiding, withdrawing, staying silent, or hoping the issue goes away. 2. Accommodating, giving in to avoid conflict, even at your own expense. 3. Competing, focusing on winning, often at the cost of the relationship. 4. Compromising, meeting halfway, with each side giving something up. 5. Collaborating, working together to find a solution that satisfies both sides. Each style has its time and place, but over-reliance on any one can limit your effectiveness. For example, avoiding might be appropriate when tensions are high, but overuse can lead to resentment and unresolved issues. 6. Setting clear intentions before a confrontation. Before entering a potentially difficult conversation, clarify your intention. What do you want to happen? How do you want to feel afterward? What outcome are you working toward? Consider the following questions. Am I trying to express a need or just vent frustration? Do I want to resolve something or prove I'm right? Is now the best time for this conversation? Intentionality shifts your focus from emotional reaction to purposeful action. It also helps you choose language that supports connection and resolution rather than conflict. Conclusion: self-knowledge is your anchor. Knowing yourself is the foundation for handling confrontation with clarity and confidence. When you're grounded in emotional awareness, you can regulate your reactions, stand by your boundaries, and communicate with purpose, even when things get tense. Before you try to change anyone else's behavior, start by strengthening your own foundation. Increase your emotional intelligence. Understand your triggers. Practice emotional regulation. Clarify your boundaries. Recognize your default conflict style. Set clear intentions before engaging. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to become an excellent listener, one of the most underrated skills in diffusing confrontation and building trust. Chapter 5: Listening Before Speaking. Verbal confrontation is often less about the words being spoken and more about how well each person feels heard and understood. In emotionally charged conversations, the urge to defend, interrupt, or retaliate is natural, but often counterproductive. One of the most effective tools you can use to de-escalate and steer confrontation toward resolution is listening. This chapter focuses on the power of active listening, how to validate someone without surrendering your stance, and why silence can be more powerful than speech in a heated exchange. 1. Listening as a strategic tool. Many people approach confrontation with one goal: to get their point across. But effective communicators know that listening first dramatically increases the chances of being heard later. When you allow someone to speak fully, without interruption, you do three things at once. You gather critical information about their perspective. You lower their emotional intensity. You demonstrate respect and self-control. In doing so, you shift the dynamic from adversarial to collaborative. Listening is not passive. It is an active, deliberate process that can shape the direction of the conversation more than any argument can. 2. What is active listening? Active listening is the skill of fully concentrating on what someone is saying, understanding it, and responding in a way that encourages further communication. It involves more than just hearing words. Key components of active listening include attention, maintaining eye contact, open posture, and focus. Reflection, paraphrasing or summarizing what you heard, so what I hear you saying is. Clarification, asking follow-up questions to ensure understanding. Can you tell me more about what you meant by that? Affirmation, nodding, using short verbal cues. I see, that makes sense, go on. Active listening communicates that you value the speaker's thoughts and feelings, even if you disagree with them. 3. The power of validation, without agreement. Many people fear that if they validate someone's emotions, they are automatically agreeing with their viewpoint or admitting fault. That's not true. Validation simply acknowledges the reality of how someone feels. For example, I can understand why that would be frustrating. It sounds like that really upset you. That makes sense, given what you experienced. Notice that these responses don't take sides, they just confirm that the speaker's feelings are real and understandable. When people feel validated, they are less likely to escalate. In contrast, dismissing or minimizing someone's experience often intensifies the conflict. Validation softens the conversation and makes it easier to introduce your perspective. 4. Avoiding common listening traps. When tensions run high, it's easy to fall into one of these common traps. Interrupting, often done out of urgency to correct or clarify, but it signals disrespect. Rehearsing, mentally preparing your next response while the other person is still talking. Deflecting, changing the subject or steering the conversation back to yourself. Fixing, jumping in with solutions when the speaker may only want to be heard. Invalidating, minimizing feelings with statements like "you're overreacting" or "it's not that big of a deal." Recognizing and avoiding these traps can make you a significantly better communicator and conflict handler. 5. The role of silence. Silence, when used intentionally, can be a powerful tool in confrontation. While many people rush to fill silence with words, often defensively or out of discomfort, strategic silence can give the other person space to reflect. Signal that you're listening deeply. Diffuse emotional escalation by slowing the tempo of the conversation. For example, after someone makes an emotional statement, a few seconds of silence can communicate that you're taking their words seriously. It can also prompt them to keep talking, revealing more information and softening their tone. Pausing before you respond, especially in high-stakes moments, helps you avoid reactive statements you might later regret. 6. Practicing listening under pressure. It's one thing to listen well during a calm conversation. It's another to do so in the heat of conflict. Here are some practical steps to help. 1. Notice your body. Tension in your shoulders, jaw, or fists can indicate you're bracing for defense rather than opening to listen. 2. Breathe deeply. Slow your breathing to calm your nervous system. 3. Use grounding language. Say silently to yourself, right now, my job is to understand. 4. Set listening as the first goal. Tell yourself, I'll speak after they finish. First, I want the full picture. The more you practice active listening, the more natural it becomes, even in moments of emotional strain. 7. Real-life example. Listening in action. Scenario: a manager confronts you in a meeting, saying, "You've been missing deadlines, and it's affecting the whole team." Wrong response: reactive. "That's not true. I've been working extra hours to catch up. Why are you singling me out?" Better response: active listening. "I hear that you're frustrated and that the team's performance is being affected. Can we talk about what's been missed and how I can fix it?" Breakdown. You acknowledge the concern without defensiveness. You validate the speaker's emotion, frustration. You open the door for collaboration instead of conflict. Conclusion: listen first to lead the conversation. Mastering the art of listening is essential in handling verbal confrontation. It disarms hostility, encourages cooperation, and builds trust, even in difficult conversations. When you listen first, you gain a clearer picture of the issue. You create emotional space for others to soften. You earn the right to speak and be heard in return. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to adopt a mindset and framing strategy that keeps you grounded and focused on outcomes, not egos. Let's move forward. Chapter 6: Mindset and Framing. How you approach a verbal confrontation, your mindset and the way you frame the situation, can often determine whether the interaction becomes productive or destructive. In this chapter, we'll explore the internal preparation needed before you speak, what to believe, what to expect, and how to mentally position yourself so you're acting intentionally, not reactively. If you see confrontation as war, you'll enter it ready to attack. But if you see it as a conversation with the potential for clarity, growth, or boundary setting, your entire presence, your tone, posture, and words will reflect that goal. 1. Reframing confrontation as a conversation. Many people associate confrontation with aggression, tension, or discomfort. This mindset creates fear or defensiveness before the conversation even begins. Reframe it like this. Instead of, "I'm about to confront them," try, "I'm about to clarify something that matters to me." Instead of, "This will probably become a fight," try, "This is a chance to be honest and to listen." You're not entering a courtroom or a boxing ring. You're entering a conversation where both parties can learn something about each other and themselves. When you approach confrontation with curiosity and care, rather than judgment or dominance, you create space for dialogue, not just reaction. 2. Define your intention. Before addressing someone, ask yourself, what is my real goal? Do I want to be right, or do I want resolution? Am I trying to punish, or am I trying to communicate? Do I want clarity, closure, change, or just to vent? Being honest about your intention helps you align your tone, language, and energy. If your goal is clarity, then your words should invite understanding, not provoke shame or defensiveness. Clear intention leads to focused communication. Vague or conflicted intentions, like wanting to be heard but also wanting to win, often result in mixed signals and confusion. 3. The power of neutrality. Neutrality is not passivity. It's the ability to stay grounded and centered even when things get emotionally charged. A neutral mindset does not mean lacking emotion, it means not being driven by it. When you're neutral, you can hear criticism without crumbling or lashing out. You can stay present instead of replaying past grievances. You can respond to the actual situation, not just the emotional charge behind it. Neutrality in practice. Pause before responding. Breathe slowly and deeply. Remind yourself, this is not an attack on my worth. It's an opportunity to understand something better. Neutrality helps you stay in control, even when the other person is losing theirs. 4. The role of assumptions and storytelling. Before a confrontation begins, most people already have a story in their head. They don't respect me. They're always trying to undermine me. They'll probably deny everything. These mental stories shape your tone, your choice of words, and your openness to resolution. If your internal story casts the other person as a villain, your brain will subconsciously look for evidence that confirms that story, even if it's not accurate. Challenge your assumptions. Enter the conversation with questions, not conclusions. Try saying to yourself, I don't know the full picture yet. There may be more going on than I realize. Let me stay curious instead of judgmental. This doesn't make you naive, it makes you effective. You're more likely to get to the truth when you're not fixated on being right. 5. Being assertive, not aggressive. Assertiveness is the ability to express your thoughts, feelings, and needs clearly and respectfully. It is not aggression, nor is it passive silence. Assertive mindset. My voice matters, and so does theirs. I can be direct without being disrespectful. I can hold boundaries without needing to dominate. Aggression seeks to overpower. Assertiveness seeks to clarify. Consider the difference. Aggressive, you're always interrupting me. You don't care what I have to say. Assertive, when I'm interrupted, I feel unheard. I'd appreciate being allowed to finish my thought. The assertive person doesn't avoid discomfort, they approach it with control, empathy, and purpose. 6. Detachment from outcome. This might be the most powerful mindset shift of all. You don't control how the other person will respond. You can. Speak clearly. Stay calm. Express yourself honestly. Listen with empathy. But you can't force someone to agree with you. Make them see your perspective. Guarantee a calm or fair reaction. Detaching from outcome doesn't mean you don't care, it means you recognize your limits and focus on what you can control, your preparation, your delivery, your presence. This mindset reduces anxiety and helps you stay grounded, especially when the conversation doesn't go the way you hoped. 7. Preparation questions to ask yourself. Before initiating a confrontation, reflect on the following. 1. What is the core issue I want to address? 2. What do I hope to achieve from this conversation? 3. What emotions am I bringing into this? 4. What assumptions might I be making? 5. How do I want to show up, calm, firm, open, kind? 6. What am I willing to accept, and where do I draw the line? The more clarity you have before speaking, the less likely you are to be derailed during the conversation. Conclusion: framing creates freedom. When you enter a confrontation with the wrong frame, thinking of it as a battle, assuming bad faith, or needing to win, you limit your options and heighten the risk of escalation. But when you reframe confrontation as a conversation, focus on your intention, practice neutrality, and let go of rigid expectations, you empower yourself to lead the interaction with clarity and control. Chapter 7: Verbal De-escalation Strategies. Verbal confrontations escalate when emotions drive the conversation rather than reason. The goal of verbal de-escalation is not to win but to lower tension so both parties can think and communicate clearly. This chapter provides practical techniques, phrasing examples, and strategies you can use to diffuse hostility and regain control of a difficult conversation. 1. Why de-escalation works. When people are upset, they are often operating from an emotional state rather than a logical one. Anger, fear, or frustration can shut down rational thinking, making reasoned dialogue almost impossible. De-escalation works by reducing emotional intensity, demonstrating control and calmness, creating an environment where problem-solving can occur. Your tone, body language, and word choice can either fuel or calm the situation. 2. The golden rule of de-escalation: stay calm. You cannot de-escalate someone if you are equally reactive. Staying calm is the first and most important step. Practical tips. Breathe slowly and evenly to maintain composure. Keep your voice low and steady. Avoid fast or sharp movements. Example: escalating response: why are you yelling? Stop talking to me like that. De-escalating response, I want to understand your point. Let's take a moment and talk through this. 3. Control your tone and body language. Your body language often speaks louder than your words. Aggressive stances, pointing fingers, or rolling your eyes can instantly escalate a conversation. Aim for neutral, open body language. Keep your hands relaxed and visible. Maintain eye contact without staring. Nod slightly to signal you are listening. Tone techniques. Speak 10 to 20% slower than usual. Lower your volume slightly as the other person gets louder. This encourages them to mirror your calmness. 4. Use neutral and non-provocative language. Certain words and phrases can trigger defensiveness. Avoid blaming language or use statements that sound accusatory. Replace "You're wrong" with "I see this differently." Calm down with "Let's take a moment to think this through." You always, or you never. With "Sometimes I feel like." 5. Acknowledge and validate emotions. People want to feel heard. Acknowledging their feelings, without necessarily agreeing, can diffuse tension. Examples of validating statements. I can see that you're upset. It sounds like this is really important to you. I understand that this situation is frustrating. Validation does not mean agreement, it simply shows that you respect their emotions. 6. The power of pausing and silence. Silence can be an effective tool. It prevents you from saying something reactive. It gives the other person time to process their emotions. It signals that you are listening and considering your words. A short pause, 2 to 3 seconds, before responding can drastically reduce the heat in a conversation. 7. Redirect the focus. When a conversation is spiraling, steer it toward problem-solving rather than blame. Examples. Instead of "This is your fault," try "What can we do to fix this?" Instead of "You never listen to me," try "Can we figure out a better way to communicate?" Shifting focus from the person to the issue helps neutralize personal attacks. 8. Offer choices and solutions. Giving the other person a sense of control can reduce hostility. Rather than issuing commands, offer options. Would you like to discuss this now, or should we take 5 minutes and come back? Do you prefer we find a compromise today, or should we schedule another time to talk? This approach prevents the conversation from feeling like a power struggle. 9. Example de-escalation dialogues. Scenario: angry customer. Customer: "This service is terrible. I'm never coming back." Reactive response: "That's not my fault. You're overreacting." De-escalating response: "I understand this is frustrating for you. Let's see how I can fix this right now." Scenario: argument with a partner. Partner: "You never listen to me." Reactive response: "That's not true. You're always accusing me." De-escalating response: "I hear that you feel ignored. Can you tell me what I missed so I can understand better?" 10. When de-escalation fails. Sometimes, despite your best efforts, the other person continues to escalate. If this happens, step back. Take a break and revisit the issue later. Set boundaries. Calmly state, "I want to resolve this, but I can't continue if we're yelling." Walk away if necessary. Protecting your mental and emotional well-being is more important than winning the moment. Conclusion. Verbal de-escalation is about managing emotions, yours and the other person's, so the conversation can move toward resolution instead of conflict. By staying calm, choosing words carefully, and validating the other person's feelings, you reduce hostility and create space for constructive dialogue. In the next chapter, we'll explore assertive communication, how to stand firm on your boundaries and express your needs without fueling confrontation. Chapter 8: The Power of Assertive Communication. Many people approach verbal confrontation from two extremes: aggression, forcefully pushing their point, or passivity, avoiding the issue altogether. Neither approach leads to lasting resolution or mutual respect. The middle ground, assertive communication, is the most effective and empowering method for handling difficult conversations. This chapter will introduce you to what assertive communication looks like, how it differs from other styles, and how to apply it in real-life situations. 1. What is assertive communication? Assertive communication is the ability to express your thoughts, feelings, needs, and boundaries clearly and respectfully, without violating the rights of others or diminishing your own. Assertiveness is not about being aggressive or confrontational. It's about standing up for yourself without stepping on anyone else. Assertive behavior includes making eye contact without glaring, using a calm, steady voice, expressing needs without blaming or accusing, listening actively while still holding your position. Assertive communication reflects self-respect and confidence, but also openness to dialogue. 2. How assertiveness differs from other communication styles. Communication style characteristics. Outcome. Passive avoids conflict, apologizes unnecessarily, dismisses own needs, leads to resentment, being ignored, or taken advantage of. Aggressive dominates, interrupts, uses threats or harsh language, causes fear, defensiveness, or conflict escalation. Passive-aggressive indirect resistance, sarcasm, hidden hostility, causes confusion, distrust, and unresolved tension. Assertive honest, respectful, direct builds clarity, respect, and mutual understanding. Recognizing these styles in yourself and others allows you to shift toward a more productive and respectful way of communicating. 3. The I statement formula. One of the most powerful tools in assertive communication is the I statement. Unlike you statements, which often sound like accusations, I statements keep the focus on your experience and reduce defensiveness in the listener. Formula: I feel or emotion, when, situation, because, reason. What I need is, request. Examples. Instead of saying, you never listen to me, say, I feel unheard when I'm interrupted because it makes me feel like my input doesn't matter. I need to finish my thoughts before you respond. Instead of saying, you're being rude, say, I feel disrespected when I'm spoken to in that tone. I need to be addressed respectfully, even during disagreements. This structure helps keep the conversation grounded in facts and feelings, not blame. 4. Setting limits respectfully. Assertiveness is not only about expressing thoughts, it's also about setting clear boundaries. Boundaries protect your emotional, mental, and sometimes physical space. Setting a boundary is not an act of rejection, it's an act of self-care and mutual respect. Assertive ways to set boundaries. I'm not comfortable discussing this right now. Let's revisit it later. Please don't raise your voice. I'm willing to talk when we're both calm. I understand you're upset, but I won't accept insults. The key is to express the boundary without aggression or apology. You're simply stating what is and isn't acceptable for you. 5. Staying firm under pressure. In some confrontations, the other person may try to push back, guilt you, or escalate emotionally in response to your assertiveness. Holding your ground is crucial in these moments. Tips for staying firm. Stay calm and repeat your message if needed. Repetition reinforces your boundary. Avoid over-explaining or justifying excessively. You don't need permission to assert your needs. Use the broken record technique, calmly repeat your boundary until it's respected. Example: I understand you're upset, but I won't tolerate yelling. I get that you're frustrated, but I still need this conversation to remain respectful. This calm consistency often de-escalates the other person's behavior over time. 6. Examples of assertive responses in real situations. Scenario 1. Being interrupted in a meeting. Passive: it's okay, you can go ahead. Aggressive: stop interrupting me. Assertive: I'd like to finish my point before moving on. Please hold that thought. Scenario 2. A partner makes a hurtful comment. Passive: says nothing and stews quietly. Aggressive: you're such a jerk. Assertive: that comment hurt my feelings. I'd appreciate it if you spoke more kindly next time. Scenario 3. A friend is always late. Passive, no worries, I waited. Aggressive, you're always inconsiderate. Assertive, I feel frustrated when I'm kept waiting. Can we agree on a time that works for both of us going forward? 7. Building assertiveness over time. Assertiveness is a skill that improves with practice. If it feels unnatural at first, that's normal, especially if you've spent years avoiding confrontation or expressing yourself passively. To build assertiveness, practice I statements in low-stakes conversations. Reflect after each confrontation, what went well? What could improve? Role-play situations with a trusted friend or coach. Journal your thoughts before and after difficult conversations. Remind yourself, you have the right to speak up without guilt. Conclusion, clarity without conflict. Assertive communication is the most respectful and effective way to navigate verbal confrontation. It allows you to express yourself clearly, stand your ground, and respect others in the process. In the next chapter, we'll look at how to apply this assertive approach when dealing with difficult communication styles, from aggressive personalities to passive-aggressive behavior, and how to respond with control, confidence, and empathy. Let's move forward. Chapter 9, Responding to Common Confrontational Styles. Not all verbal confrontations are the same, and neither are the people involved. Some people come at you directly, while others are subtle or manipulative. Understanding the confrontational style of the person you're dealing with is essential to choosing the right response. In this chapter, we'll explore 5 common types of confrontational styles. 1. The aggressor. 2. The passive-aggressive. 3. The manipulator. 4. The complainer. 5. The defensive person. Each section includes a profile, why this behavior occurs, and practical responses with examples. 1. The aggressor. Profile. The aggressor confronts directly, often loudly, harshly, and with an intent to dominate. They may shout, interrupt, or use threatening language. Their goal is often control, victory, or intimidation. Why they do it? They may equate volume or anger with strength. They might feel unheard or insecure. This style may have worked for them in the past. How to respond? Stay calm and grounded. Matching their energy only fuels the fire. Set boundaries. Clearly state what behavior you will or won't tolerate. Use concise, assertive statements. Example. Aggressor, you never do your job right. I have to clean up after you every single time. I'm open to discussing this, but not while I'm being yelled at. If you want to talk, we can do it calmly. 2. The passive-aggressive. Profile. This person avoids direct confrontation but expresses negativity through sarcasm, backhanded compliments, procrastination, or subtle digs. Their tone may appear polite, but their words contain hidden criticism. Why they do it? Fear of direct conflict. Desire to express anger without accountability. Learn behavior from environments where directness was punished. How to respond? Call out the behavior gently but directly. Don't engage in sarcasm, stay clear and factual. Ask clarifying questions to expose the passive nature of the comment. Example. Passive-aggressive, oh, I didn't think you'd actually show up on time for once. Impressive. That sounded like sarcasm. If you have a concern, I'd rather talk about it directly. 3. The manipulator. Profile. The manipulator uses guilt, exaggeration, withholding information, or emotional tactics to control a conversation or outcome. They may play the victim or twist your words to gain the upper hand. Why they do it? A need to control without appearing confrontational. A belief that manipulation is more effective than honest communication. Lack of trust in direct expression. How to respond? Stick to facts. Don't argue feelings, redirect to what's concrete. Don't get pulled into guilt or emotional games. Set clear boundaries. Example. Manipulator, I guess you don't care about this project as much as I do, since you won't work late. I care about this project. I've worked my scheduled hours. If there's more to do, let's discuss timelines, not assumptions. 4. The complainer. Profile. The complainer focuses on problems, blames others, and often refuses responsibility. They may not want solutions, only validation for their frustration. Why they do it? Feel powerless or unheard. Use complaining as a way to cope. Seek attention or sympathy. How to respond? Acknowledge their feelings without reinforcing the negativity. Redirect the conversation to solutions. Ask them what they want to change. Example. Complainer, this team never listens to my ideas. It's always the same. You, I hear that you're frustrated. What specific changes would you like to see? Let's figure out how we can improve this. 5. The defensive person. Profile. This person perceives any feedback, no matter how constructive, as an attack. They may deflect, deny, justify, or counter-accuse. Why they do it? Fear of being wrong or exposed. Low self-esteem. Past experiences of being unfairly criticized. How to respond? Use non-threatening language. Avoid US statements, focus on behavior and impact. Reassure them that the goal is resolution, not blame. Example. You, when the report is late, it affects the whole team's timeline. Defensive person, well, maybe if I wasn't overloaded, I'd be on time. You have no idea what I'm juggling. You, I understand you've got a lot on your plate. I'm bringing it up because it's impacting others, and I want to find a way to support each other better. Conclusion, know the pattern, control the response. People use different styles of confrontation based on their personalities, experiences, and emotional patterns. By learning to recognize these patterns, you can take the emotional sting out of the moment and respond more strategically. In the heat of confrontation, don't take the style personally. Instead, focus on maintaining your composure, responding with clarity, not emotion, guiding the interaction toward a constructive outcome. In the next chapter, we'll apply these techniques to real-world situations, at work, in relationships, and in public, to show how these responses play out in everyday life. Chapter 10. Workplace Confrontations. The workplace is a breeding ground for verbal conflict. Different personalities, high stakes, deadlines, stress, and constant communication all contribute. But unlike personal relationships, professional environments often require a different level of control, tact, and diplomacy. Mismanaging workplace confrontation can damage your reputation, relationships, and even your career. In this chapter, we'll examine typical workplace conflicts, provide practical strategies for handling them, and break down real-world examples. 1. The nature of workplace conflict. Verbal confrontation at work may be more subtle than in personal life. It can show up as passive-aggressive remarks, undermining comments during meetings, public criticism or micromanagement, miscommunication between departments, competition between peers. The key difference? You usually can't choose who you work with, and professionalism is expected even when emotions are high. Understanding this context is vital. Your goal isn't to win or vent, but to resolve issues while preserving professional relationships. 2. Key principles for workplace confrontations. Before diving into examples, here are guiding principles to follow in any workplace conflict. Stay professional even when others don't. Pick the right setting. Don't confront someone publicly unless absolutely necessary. Use I statements to describe how something affected you. Stick to facts, not assumptions or emotions. Stay calm and clear, even when others get emotional. 3. Common scenarios and how to handle them. A. Handling criticism from a boss. Scenario. Your manager says in front of your team, "This report is incomplete again. We've talked about this." Poor response. "That's not true, you didn't even explain what you wanted last time." Effective approach. 1. Stay calm and acknowledge the feedback. 2. Redirect the conversation to a private setting. 3. Seek clarification, not confrontation. Example response: I understand your concern. Can we step aside later today to go over what was missing? I want to ensure I deliver exactly what you're looking for. Why this works? It shows maturity, redirects confrontation to a more appropriate setting, and communicates a willingness to improve. B. Addressing a rude or dismissive coworker. Scenario: in a team meeting, a colleague interrupts you and says, "We already know that. Let's move on." Poor response: Excuse me? That was rude. Maybe you should let other people speak too. Effective approach: 1. Hold your ground without matching their tone. 2. Reassert your point calmly. Example response: in the moment. I'd like to finish my point. I believe it adds value to what we're discussing. Follow-up, private conversation. I noticed earlier you dismissed my comment during the meeting. If there's a concern with how I present, I'd rather address it directly than in front of the group. Why this works? You're asserting your right to contribute without escalating the tension. Following up privately allows both parties to reset the relationship. C. Managing team conflict. Scenario: you lead a team where two members constantly argue and it's affecting progress. Poor response: can you both just stop fighting and act like adults? Effective approach: 1. Speak to each individually to understand their perspectives. 2. Bring them together in a structured conversation. 3. Focus on solutions, not assigning blame. Example opening for mediation: I've noticed the tension between you two is affecting the team. My goal isn't to take sides but to find a way forward that works for both of you and the team. Why this works? It de-escalates blame and creates a solution-oriented environment where both parties feel heard. D. Speaking up to an overbearing manager or leader. Scenario: your supervisor constantly overrides your decisions in front of others. Poor response: you never trust me to handle anything. Effective approach: 1. Speak in private. 2. Use I statements and express the impact. 3. Focus on improving collaboration. Example response: I've noticed in a few meetings my input was overridden without discussion. It makes it difficult for me to lead confidently. I'd appreciate a chance to talk through decisions more collaboratively moving forward. Why this works? You're not accusing, but explaining the impact of their behavior and requesting a specific change. E. Giving difficult feedback to a colleague. Scenario: a peer's performance is affecting your shared work, but they don't seem to notice. Poor response: you're dragging the team down. You need to step it up. Effective approach: 1. Be specific and factual. 2. Use a collaborative tone. 3. Frame feedback as a shared goal. Example response: I've noticed a few delays on your end have impacted our timeline. Is there anything blocking you? I'd like to find a way to stay aligned moving forward. Why this works? It opens the door to dialogue and shows you're interested in solving the problem together, not placing blame. 4. When to involve HR or leadership. Sometimes, a situation goes beyond what direct conversation can solve, especially if it involves harassment, discrimination, repeated boundary violations, or ethical concerns. In such cases, it's appropriate to document incidents clearly and factually. Speak with your supervisor or HR. Avoid retaliating verbally. Knowing when to escalate a matter formally is part of handling confrontation responsibly. 5. Dealing with passive-aggressive behavior. Passive-aggressive behavior, sarcasm, avoidance, backhanded compliments, is common in the workplace because it feels safe to the person expressing it. Response strategy: call it out indirectly but clearly. Don't match the tone. Set a boundary. Example: when you say things like, "I guess some people don't work as fast, I'm not sure how to interpret that. If there's something I can do differently, I'm open to hearing it directly." Conclusion: professionalism in conflict is a skill. Workplace confrontations can be tricky, but with the right approach, they can lead to better understanding, improved communication, and stronger teams. The key is to manage your own reactions, approach others with clarity and respect, and choose your battles wisely. By handling confrontation professionally, you demonstrate leadership, emotional intelligence, and maturity, qualities that elevate not just your work, but your workplace as a whole. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to navigate verbal confrontation in family and intimate relationships, where emotions run even deeper and boundaries can be more difficult to enforce. Chapter 11: Family and Relationship Conflicts. Family and intimate relationships often bring us the deepest sense of love and connection, but they also tend to involve the most intense and frequent verbal confrontations. Unlike professional or social encounters, these interactions are charged with history, emotional attachment, and personal expectations. In this chapter, we'll explore how to handle verbal conflict in close relationships with clarity, compassion, and firmness. We'll break down common scenarios with examples and walk through strategies for addressing them constructively. 1. Why family and relationship conflicts are so challenging. Verbal confrontations in close relationships can be especially painful because they often activate deep emotional triggers. They involve people we see or depend on regularly. The history between parties adds complexity. Boundaries may be poorly defined or frequently tested. These dynamics make it harder to stay objective or calm, which is why developing communication skills in this area is essential for long-term emotional health. 2. Common triggers in family and romantic conflicts. Some of the most common sources of verbal conflict in these relationships include unmet expectations: you should have known I needed help. Perceived lack of appreciation: you don't value what I do. Control and independence: you're always telling me what to do. Communication breakdown: you never listen to me. Unresolved past issues: this is just like what happened last year. Different conflict styles: one partner wants to talk now, the other shuts down. Understanding these recurring themes helps you approach conflict with more empathy and less surprise. 3. Confronting a partner or spouse. Scenario example: You never help with the chores. I feel like I'm doing everything alone. Them: that's not true. I cleaned the kitchen last week. Why are you always exaggerating? What's really happening? You're expressing frustration rooted in feeling unsupported. They're responding defensively, possibly due to feeling unappreciated. Better approach: You: when I see the chores piling up, and I'm doing most of them, I feel overwhelmed and unimportant. Can we talk about a way to share things more evenly? Why it works. Uses I statements rather than blame. Focuses on how you feel, not what they did wrong. Invites collaboration rather than defensiveness. Tips: don't confront in the heat of emotion. Wait until both are calm. Avoid absolute words like always or never. Be specific about what you need, not just what's wrong. For addressing conflict with children or teenagers. Children and teens are learning how to express themselves, assert their independence, and test boundaries. Verbal confrontation is often part of that process. Scenario example: Teen: you never let me do anything. You just want to control my life. Parent: watch your tone. I'm your parent, not your friend. What's really happening? The teen is expressing a need for autonomy. The parent feels disrespected and defaults to authority. Better approach: Parent: I hear that you're frustrated. Let's talk about what kind of independence you're looking for and what I'm comfortable with. Why it works. Validates the teen's emotion without giving up parental authority. Opens a door to negotiation rather than enforcing a power struggle. Tips: acknowledge their feelings, even if you disagree with their behavior. Set boundaries calmly, not reactively. Model respectful communication. They will learn from you more than you think. 5. Navigating conflict with parents or extended family. Adult children often struggle with maintaining independence while managing obligations or emotional pressure from parents or in-laws. These confrontations can be especially tough due to long-standing family roles or guilt. Scenario example. Parent, you never call anymore. I guess you're too busy for your family now. You, I've just had a lot on my plate. Why are you always making me feel guilty? What's really happening? The parent feels disconnected and is expressing that through guilt. You feel manipulated and respond with defensiveness. Better approach. You, I miss our connection too, but I've been juggling a lot lately. I'd love to set a regular time to catch up, would that help? Why it works. Acknowledges their need without internalizing blame. Offers a proactive solution that respects both parties. Tips. Set clear but kind boundaries. Don't try to win or argue about the past, focus on what you can change moving forward. Be consistent in your follow-through if you make commitments. 6. When the conflict becomes toxic. Some family and romantic conflicts move beyond difficult and become emotionally harmful, characterized by manipulation, gaslighting, yelling, or verbal abuse. Red flags. Constant name-calling or insults. Frequent shouting matches. Stonewalling or silent treatment as punishment. Rewriting or denying past events. Dismissing your feelings entirely. If you find yourself in these patterns repeatedly, it may be necessary to seek professional counseling or therapy. Establish firmer boundaries, including limiting contact. Prioritize your mental and emotional safety, even if it creates distance. 7. Repairing after the confrontation. Once a confrontation has happened, your next steps matter. Healthy relationships are not conflict-free, they are conflict-resilient. Steps to repair. 1. Reflect. What was I really feeling? What was I really trying to say? 2. Take responsibility, acknowledge your role, even if it was just your tone or timing. 3. Reach out, a simple, "Can we talk?" opens the door. 4. Apologize and clarify, focus on impact, not just intent. 5. Recommit, suggest a new way forward together. Conclusion, connection over control. Family and intimate relationships are worth investing in, even when conflict arises. The goal isn't to avoid confrontation entirely, but to handle it in ways that protect both the relationship and your self-respect. By communicating your needs clearly, listening with empathy, and staying calm under pressure, you can turn even tense conversations into opportunities for deeper understanding and connection. In the next chapter, we'll look at verbal confrontations in social and public settings, when the person you're facing isn't a close connection, but the stakes still feel high. Chapter 12, Social and Public Settings. Verbal confrontations in public or social settings can be uniquely uncomfortable. Whether it's a rude stranger, a controversial discussion at a dinner party, or a hostile exchange online, these moments test your composure and communication skills under pressure, and often in front of others. The key to handling public confrontation is maintaining control, minimizing escalation, and preserving your dignity, regardless of how others behave. In this chapter, we'll look at the dynamics of confrontation in social settings, and offer practical, example-driven strategies for handling them with calm and clarity. 1. The nature of public confrontation. Unlike private disagreements, public or social confrontations involve an audience, even if unintentional, can be more emotionally charged due to embarrassment or social pressure, require quick judgment and verbal control, often lack the time or space for deeper resolution. In these situations, how you respond is often more important than being right. Your tone, presence, and ability to stay respectful under pressure speak volumes, especially when others are watching. 2. Confronting inappropriate comments. Situation: you're at a social gathering, and someone makes a racist, sexist, or otherwise inappropriate remark. Objective: address the comment without escalating the situation unnecessarily, especially in front of others. Example dialogue: person, you know how those people are. Always causing trouble. You, I'm going to pause you there. That kind of generalization doesn't sit well with me. Can we keep the conversation respectful? Why it works. You set a clear boundary without attacking the person. You address the behavior, not the individual's character. You steer the conversation rather than derailing it. Tip: tone matters. Speak clearly and firmly, but not with sarcasm or aggression. You're not trying to humiliate the speaker, just to clarify the standard for respectful dialogue. 3. Handling rude strangers. Situation: you're in a store or public space, and a stranger is rude or aggressive, e.g., cuts in line, speaks harshly. Objective: de-escalate or disengage, depending on safety and relevance. Example dialogue: stranger, what's taking you so long? Move it. You, I'm in line like everyone else. Please be patient. Or, if safety feels questionable. You, to staff, excuse me, could someone assist? There's an issue here. Why it works. You stay calm and avoid responding in kind. You assert your place and your rights respectfully. You remove yourself from potential escalation if needed. Tip: if someone is aggressive or unstable, it's okay to disengage entirely. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. 4. Managing group confrontation. Situation: you're part of a group conversation where disagreement arises, politics, religion, parenting choices, etc. Objective: keep your cool, contribute thoughtfully, and protect group harmony if possible. Example dialogue: person, you can't seriously believe that. That's just ridiculous. You, I actually do believe that, and I'm happy to explain why, but I'd appreciate it if we kept this respectful. I'm not here to argue, just to share perspectives. Why it works. You name the disrespect without reacting emotionally. You affirm your right to an opinion without attacking theirs. You model mature disagreement. Tip: in group settings, there's often social pressure to either stay silent or conform. Practicing calm, clear disagreement builds confidence and earns respect. 5. Online arguments and comment sections. Digital spaces are breeding grounds for verbal confrontation. Tone is easily misunderstood, anonymity emboldens rudeness, and context is often lost. Guidelines for online conflict. Pause before responding. Your immediate reaction is rarely your best. Avoid sarcasm or personal attacks. They escalate tension and reduce your credibility. Use I statements. They reduce defensiveness and personalize your message. Know when to disengage. You don't have to win every comment thread. Example response: them, that's the dumbest opinion I've ever seen. You, I see you strongly disagree. I don't expect everyone to share my view, but I think respectful conversation is still possible. Or simply: you, thanks for your perspective. We'll have to agree to disagree. Tip: sometimes the most powerful statement is no response at all. Silence can protect your peace and prevent a pointless spiral. 6. When you're the one who's called out. Occasionally, you may be confronted in public, maybe for something you said or did that offended someone. This is where humility and emotional control are essential. Example: them, I found that joke really inappropriate. You, I'm sorry it came across that way. That wasn't my intention. Thanks for pointing it out. Even if you feel misunderstood, a calm and accountable response diffuses the tension and shows integrity. 7. General strategies for public conflict. Maintain composure. Your calmness disarms escalation. Set boundaries, not traps. You're not here to shame or dominate. Know your goal. Do you want to correct, de-escalate, defend, or disengage? Use neutral language. Avoid blame-heavy or emotionally charged words. Protect your safety. In any situation that feels threatening, prioritize leaving or involving authorities. Conclusion: grace in the spotlight. Public confrontations can feel threatening because they challenge not only our words, but our image, our presence, and our self-control. But every public interaction is also a chance to lead by example. Whether you're addressing offensive language, responding to a rude stranger, or navigating group disagreement, your ability to respond with grace and strength can shift the entire dynamic, not just for you, but for those around you. In the next chapter, we'll explore what happens after a confrontation, how to reflect, recover, and grow from the experience. Chapter 13, Reflection and Growth, What Happens After the Confrontation. Handling a verbal confrontation effectively doesn't end when the conversation does. What you do after the conflict is just as important as how you manage it in the moment. Reflection helps you learn, grow, and improve your communication for future interactions. It also provides an opportunity for healing, whether it's repairing a relationship, clearing up lingering tension, or simply finding peace with what happened. In this chapter, we'll explore how to process confrontations after they occur, learn from them, and take constructive next steps. 1. Why post-confrontation reflection matters. Many people either avoid thinking about a confrontation or replay it obsessively. Neither approach is useful on its own. Avoidance can prevent growth. Overanalysis can increase anxiety. The goal is purposeful reflection, a calm, objective review of the interaction with the intent to understand what happened. Identify what worked and what didn't. Clarify your own feelings. Decide what, if anything, you want to do next. Reflection transforms conflict into a learning opportunity. 2. Key questions for self-reflection. Use the following questions as a guide to assess your role in the confrontation and your next steps. About the interaction. What triggered the confrontation? What did I say or do that helped or hurt the situation? Did I stay calm and respectful, or did I escalate? What was the other person trying to express, beyond their words? About yourself. How did I feel before, during, and after the conversation? Were any of my emotional triggers involved? Did I respond from emotion or principle? What did I learn about myself? About the outcome. Was anything resolved? Do I feel at peace with how I handled it? Is there unfinished business I need to address? The goal is not to judge yourself but to understand and improve. 3. Emotional recovery and self-care. Verbal confrontations can be emotionally draining. Even if they're productive, they often stir up adrenaline, anxiety, anger, or sadness. Allowing yourself time and space to recover emotionally is essential. Some helpful strategies include taking a walk to decompress, journaling your thoughts and feelings, talking to a neutral third party, a friend, coach, or therapist, practicing deep breathing or meditation, getting physical rest. Don't underestimate the emotional cost of a tough conversation. Self-care afterwards strengthens your resilience for the next time. 4. When and how to apologize. Sometimes, reflection reveals that you made a mistake, perhaps you said something hurtful, overreacted, or dismissed someone else's feelings. If that's the case, a sincere apology can go a long way toward repairing trust. A good apology takes responsibility. I was wrong to raise my voice. Acknowledges the impact. I can see that hurt you. Avoids justification. I was just stressed out. Offers a path forward. I'll work on expressing myself more calmly. Avoid apologies that shift blame or demand forgiveness. The purpose is not to clear your conscience, it's to rebuild connection, if possible. 5. Letting go when resolution isn't possible. Not every confrontation ends with clarity or closure. Sometimes the other person won't engage further, or you may decide it's healthier to walk away. In those cases, part of your growth is letting go without needing everything to be tied up neatly. Letting go might mean accepting that the other person won't change. Releasing resentment. Choosing peace over continuing the fight. You can still reflect, grow, and move forward, even if the conflict remains unresolved. 6. Turning the experience into a lesson. Every confrontation, no matter how difficult, contains a lesson. It might be about how you handle pressure, where your boundaries lie, or how people perceive your communication. To turn the experience into growth, write down one thing you handled well. Identify one thing you do differently next time. Set a personal intention for future conversations. You're not aiming for perfection. You're aiming for progress. 7. Rebuilding the relationship, if needed. If the confrontation occurred within a personal or professional relationship you care about, consider whether follow-up is needed to rebuild trust or connection. This might involve clarifying misunderstandings, reaffirming your respect or appreciation, discussing how to communicate better in the future. Sometimes the initial confrontation only scratches the surface, and a follow-up conversation can deepen mutual understanding. Conclusion: conflict as a catalyst for growth. Verbal confrontations are often uncomfortable, but they are also opportunities. They bring emotions, values, and communication styles to the surface. What you do after the confrontation determines whether that discomfort leads to distance or to development. By reflecting with honesty, recovering with care, and responding with intention, you turn every difficult conversation into a stepping stone toward better relationships and better self-awareness. In the final chapter, we'll focus on how to keep building your communication skills over the long term, so that navigating conflict becomes less reactive and more confident with time. Chapter 14: Building Long-Term Communication Skills. Handling a verbal confrontation effectively isn't about mastering a single technique or memorizing clever comebacks. It's about developing a set of ongoing communication habits that allow you to express yourself clearly, listen openly, and stay grounded, even under pressure. Like any skill, strong communication requires continuous effort, reflection, and practice. In this final chapter, we'll focus on how to maintain and strengthen your ability to navigate difficult conversations over time. You'll learn how to build emotional resilience, create communication rituals, and incorporate tools that help you grow beyond the confrontation itself. 1. Make self-awareness a daily practice. The foundation of every constructive conversation is self-awareness. This includes being aware of your emotions, triggers, communication style, and assumptions. To develop self-awareness, check in with yourself daily. Ask, what emotions have I been feeling today? What caused them? Notice your reactions. After any tense exchange, reflect, what did I feel? Why did I respond that way? Name your triggers. Begin identifying situations, words, or tones that create tension for you. Track your patterns. Keep a short journal of conflicts or miscommunications to analyze recurring themes. As you build this habit, you'll become more emotionally agile and less reactive in high-stakes moments. 2. Practice assertiveness in small moments. You don't need to wait for a major confrontation to practice speaking up. In fact, everyday situations provide the perfect training ground. Try politely correcting a name mispronunciation. Asking for clarification instead of pretending to understand. Expressing a need clearly, e.g., I'd prefer to finish this before we start something new. Saying no without over-explaining. These micro-practices build confidence and train your nervous system to stay regulated in more intense situations. 3. Reflect after every conflict. Every confrontation, big or small, is an opportunity to grow. Make it a habit to review what happened, even if it went well. After a disagreement, ask yourself, what triggered the conflict? How did I handle it? What did I do well? What could I do differently next time? What can I learn about myself or the other person? Writing down your reflections can help you track your progress over time and identify what strategies work best for you. 4. Strengthen listening skills regularly. Listening is not a passive act, it's a discipline. The more you train yourself to listen without judgment or interruption, the more trust you build in all your relationships. To sharpen your listening, practice listening with the intent to understand, not to reply. Mirror back what the other person says to check for understanding. Observe your tendency to interrupt, defend, or zone out, and consciously refocus. Ask clarifying questions like, can you help me understand what you mean by that? Strong listening skills reduce misunderstandings and prevent many confrontations from escalating. 5. Develop a personal toolbox. Over time, you'll discover that certain techniques work better for you than others. Build a personal go-to set of strategies that you can rely on when emotions run high. Your toolbox might include a calming breathing technique. A pause phrase like, "Let me take a moment to think about that." A journal for post-conflict reflection. Key phrases you can rely on in hard moments, e.g., "I see where you're coming from, even if I don't agree." A list of your known triggers and how to manage them. The key is consistency. A prepared mind handles pressure better than a reactive one. 6. Practice with role-playing or scenarios. Just as athletes train for game day, effective communicators practice outside of high-stress situations. You can rehearse by writing out conversations you expect might be difficult, practicing responses in the mirror or with a friend, reading scripts or examples from this book and analyzing them, rehearsing how to express disagreement respectfully. Role-playing scenarios sharpens your instincts, helping you stay calm and composed in the real moment. 7. Build a support system. Growing as a communicator doesn't happen in isolation. Share your intention with people you trust, and seek feedback. You can ask, "Do I come across as defensive when I disagree? What's something I could improve in how I handle conflict? How do you think I respond to tension?" Additionally, consider joining a communication workshop or training. Seeking a coach or therapist if you find recurring conflict patterns. Creating a peer accountability group focused on personal growth. Support helps you stay motivated and honest with yourself. 8. Stay curious and keep learning. Communication is a lifelong skill. Stay open to new approaches and continue your learning through books and podcasts on communication, conflict resolution, or emotional intelligence. Attending webinars or seminars. Practicing mindfulness and meditation to regulate emotions. Exploring nonviolent communication, negotiation theory, or cultural communication styles. The more tools you have at your disposal, the more flexible and confident you'll be in any verbal exchange. Conclusion: growth beyond the conflict. Mastering verbal confrontation is not about never arguing again. It's about learning to communicate with intention, lead with clarity, and listen with empathy, even when tensions run high. Long-term growth comes not from avoiding conflict but from understanding how to engage with it in a way that protects your peace and strengthens your relationships. This chapter is not the end, it's the beginning of your continued development as a strong, respectful communicator. Keep practicing. Keep reflecting. Keep growing. Because the more skilled you become at handling confrontation, the less often you'll need to. Conclusion: speak with clarity, respond with compassion. Verbal confrontations are an inevitable part of life. Whether you're navigating a disagreement at work, responding to a difficult family member, or dealing with a conflict in public, the way you handle confrontation can either damage or strengthen your relationships. This book has provided you with practical tools, strategies, and real-life examples to help you meet verbal challenges with confidence and calm. Let's take a moment to revisit the key lessons from this guide. 1. Conflict is not the enemy. One of the most important shifts in mindset is understanding that confrontation, when handled well, is not destructive, it's constructive. It offers a chance to clarify misunderstandings, set and maintain boundaries, strengthen relationships, grow as a communicator. The goal is not to avoid confrontation entirely but to engage with it intentionally and skillfully. 2. Self-awareness is the foundation. Before you can handle others effectively, you must first understand yourself. Knowing your emotional triggers, values, communication style, and boundaries allows you to stay grounded during tense moments. Emotional intelligence, awareness of your own feelings and those of others, is the foundation of successful confrontation management. 3. Listening is a power move. People often go into confrontations with one goal, to make their point. But the real turning point in most conflicts is not speaking, it's listening. Listening actively, without defensiveness, invites cooperation. It signals respect and disarms hostility. In many cases, simply making the other person feel heard is enough to resolve the situation. 4. Assertiveness is the middle path. Aggression shuts people down. Passivity lets others walk over you. But assertiveness, clear, respectful communication of your thoughts and needs, is where strength and respect meet. Assertiveness allows you to stand your ground while maintaining empathy and civility. 5. Practice is essential. Like any skill, handling verbal confrontation requires practice. You will make mistakes. You may lose your temper or freeze up. That's part of the learning curve. With reflection and repetition, these tools will become second nature. Role-playing, journaling, and real-time self-observation can help integrate these techniques into your daily life. 6. Your goal is connection, not control. The ultimate aim of any confrontation shouldn't be control, domination, or even agreement. It should be understanding and connection. Conflict handled with clarity and compassion builds trust. It opens doors to honesty, growth, and mutual respect. A call to action. The next time you face a verbal confrontation, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what outcome do I really want? What does the other person need to feel heard? How can I express myself without blaming or escalating? Choose your response with purpose. Your words are powerful. Use them to bridge gaps, not widen them. Speak clearly, stand firmly, and lead with respect. In doing so, you will not only handle verbal confrontation, you will master it. Moving forward. If this book has helped you build a better foundation for facing verbal challenges, don't stop here. Revisit key chapters. Practice the techniques. Share the knowledge with others. And when you're ready, dive deeper into communication, negotiation, and conflict resolution through the resources listed in the appendix. This is not the end, it's the beginning of a new way to communicate. Keep learning. Keep growing. Keep speaking with courage and listening with intent. Appendices. These appendices provide quick tools, scripts, and further resources to help you apply the concepts and strategies discussed throughout the book. Appendix A, quick reference, do's and don'ts of verbal confrontation. Do's. Stay calm and centered. Control your tone, breathing, and body language. Listen actively. Let the other person speak without interrupting. Validate emotions. Acknowledge their feelings even if you disagree with their position. Use I statements. Speak from your perspective without blaming. Ask clarifying questions. Confirm your understanding before responding. Set clear boundaries. Respectfully communicate your limits. Take breaks if needed. Pause the conversation before it escalates. Don'ts. Don't interrupt or talk over. It escalates tension and reduces clarity. Don't accuse or generalize. Avoid phrases like you always or you never. Don't raise your voice. It triggers defensiveness. Don't take the bait. Stay focused, not reactive, even if provoked. Don't make assumptions. Ask before drawing conclusions about intent. Don't try to win. Focus on resolution, not dominance. Appendix B, Sample Conversation Scripts. Here are sample scripts that model respectful and assertive communication in confrontational situations. Scenario 1, Workplace Criticism. Situation, your manager criticizes your work in front of colleagues. You? I appreciate the feedback, and I'd like to talk more about it. Would it be possible to continue this conversation privately? Scenario 2, Setting boundaries with a friend. Situation, a friend frequently makes sarcastic comments that feel hurtful. You? When you make jokes about me like that, I feel embarrassed. I know you may not mean it that way, but I'd appreciate it if you could avoid those kinds of remarks. Scenario 3, Dealing with a defensive partner. You? I'm not trying to blame you, I just want to share how I experienced that moment. Can we talk about it without it feeling like an attack? Scenario 4, Confronting passive-aggressive behavior. You? I noticed your tone earlier, and I'm wondering if something's bothering you. If there's an issue, I'd rather we talk about it directly. Scenario 5, Handling public rudeness. You, to a stranger. Excuse me, I'd prefer to be spoken to respectfully. Let's keep this civil. Appendix C, Self-Assessment Worksheet. Use this worksheet to reflect on your verbal confrontation habits and track your growth. 1. What are my common triggers? E.g., being interrupted, criticized, ignored. 2. How do I usually respond when confronted? Fight, flight, freeze. 3. What beliefs or thoughts come up during conflict? They don't respect me. I have to prove I'm right. This always happens to me. 4. What healthier thoughts can I replace those with? I can respond calmly. Understanding is more important than being right. I can set boundaries without hostility. 5. Recent confrontation, reflection. What happened? How did I respond? What could I have done differently? What did I learn?